All right, guys, here we are. I know gets annoying here, but to tell you the truth, I'm so bad at promoting my own things here. I forget to do it. I record the entire Bitcoin video. I forget to do it, and I've got to splice it in. So anyway, now that we're here on, it actually is Black Friday. Well, I got to remind you of this. I got a marketing team that puts all this stuff together for me. So just so you know here, now we will run this through the weekend. So if anybody was thinking, we'll run it through Sunday. So again, 30% off a month, 35% off of the 3-month, and then we had really a lot of people take advantage of the 6-month, so we're certainly grateful and thankful for that. So there you go, guys. Take advantage of it while you can. We don't do these that often, but it's been a great response. We appreciate that. So if you want any information, reach out to us. Find us on Twitter. Write us on YouTube. You can send us an email. We're easy to reach. Okay, let's get to the video. All right, all you devils, how we doing out there? Here we are, Friday, the 29th of November. Here's, of course, we're going to look at Bitcoin. So it's interesting. So we're getting some movement here. So decent little snapback rally here. Solving the puzzle here, it continues to be a bit of a challenge. Now, there's some interesting things going on here. So if you look at this, so just swing low, swing high with the break of the 65. So certainly we know that at this point we have lost the buy side algo here, and we are vulnerable now because we have a series of technical pivots. So with this, essentially this just dump here, this free fall here, where we did break that, you'd have to assume that the next reaction we get here will be very telling, or so we're certainly vulnerable to that kind of retracement and also internal, external. So you could tee that right up here and just say, well, from our low down here, whether it's the 50 or perhaps we go golden zone here. So I've got this. I just wicked off this level here as this was resistance, supports. Could very reasonable location to anticipate we at the very least have some resistance. We know there's going to be software that will be teed up to sell in here, and we don't have to wonder about that. And that would project you down here towards the 786. So that we know that, right? It doesn't mean we can't get through. It just means we know there's going to be resistance there. It as would relate to the Elliott count, excuse me, I think it would clean things up a bit. This Elliott count is certainly tricky. It's unusual. There's a couple of unusual components to it. One, we've got back-to-back expanded B waves here. Assuming this account is correctly identified here, we get the expanded B here into this ABC, and then we get a more severe version of it here, where we get this 3, and then the big rip up here. It's unusual in a combination like this to see that. So it always has you kind of checking, is there something I'm missing here? Well, as you stare at that, it's fairly easy to come to this and start doing a little rationalization. Well, maybe that's just a stop run. Is this we're going to punch out all the weak longs and then start to bring it back? Maybe you can find yourself kind of talking your way into that, given the little reaction that we've had here. Now we do have a little bit of a high volume node here, and we can just kind of look left here and see what that relates to. But you look at that pivot there, and I'm always a little bit suspect of a pivot that I can't find anything that's technically precise in relation to any of the prior swings, whether it's from the low to the high or if any of the swing relationships here. And there's nothing that's just spot on. Now there's a few that are close, right? But I want to see that precision. So if we just kind of look we've been through these a couple of times. Now, granted, we did have a slight break here. All right, we broke 65 briefly here and then came all the way down, but it looks like here we went straight to target. And then this is particularly an important pivot right here because we get double confluence here. Let me show you what I mean here. So if we go from the swing high to this low here, just prior to the golden zone here, before starting this retracement, here, I guess we'll take this little, God darn it, get you off of there. All right, so let me get, if I can, Jesus, I can't do it. All right, let's get you back here. That's what I'm trying to get you, right on that golden zone. and you right there. Okay, so from the dominant high to the dominant low, that's a straight 50. But here's our target. Now, you would do the same thing here, right? Just checking X to X. So if I just tee it up here, now here we're perfect golden zone, right? So we've talked about this before. Right, so we get that double confluence in there where we've got a 50 and a golden zone, and both of those targets are unrealized, right down here. So looking at that, knowing, right, so we've had this series of very technical pivots on the way down. Now targets, these are not inevitabilities. It's not that this must be realized. We just know that there's software that's going to stay short. And as we come back here, as we are teed up to do, they do that, something like that. Well, now you start stacking. So you say, okay, well, from that pivot to this pivot here, now we're getting a pretty solid stack down here. Assuming, right, that we don't just rip right through this, and of course anything's possible here. If we're gonna, we could do something like that, but we're not likely to go in a straight line here. Why should I say that? And then you're looking to go, well, have we done that before? All right, we've certainly done it before. So bring it over here. We could certainly do it. It's just, Bitcoin, you never know. But it's just looking at the path of least resistance. So we can just kind of tee this up here. We've got all this structural resistance. We got another golden zone. We know the golden zone is highly responsive here in Bitcoin. Software is just sitting there waiting to sell it. So this would be likely, well, certainly on the short side, right? If this holds and we start to back off from that's a trade just waiting to happen, right? Sure as hell going to put a stop on it. And I would not personally, if I'm shorting that, I would not give that a lot of room. It's just me. So have at it. If you like jumping on the short side, certainly has paid well to watch for these technical pivots as it's come down. So all of that said, right, we can kind of lay all that out. It would be more consistent with the Elliott count. If the Elliott count is going to play, as I have it outlined here, all right, let's get you here. So if it's going to play this way, so we've got our ABC into a W. Hey, let's try again. W, X, Y, X. Now we need a Z. Now, so you look here and you go, God, could we be done there? Yeah, we're getting a little, maybe a motive wave is getting started down here. Could we be done there? Well, it's going to record. So if you look at the way the ABCs have played throughout this entire correction, this would be very unusual that it was going to squeeze in here this tightly, that we were going to really get all of that to finish us here. That would be surprising, right? It'd be a pleasant surprise, but I think that's a stretch. I think it's a force fit. I think what this just collapse here reminds me very much of this section here, where we just went straight down and there was just no good clear Elliott structure to it, right? But this is kind of the same thing. Right? It's just a free fall. Right? Same thing here, just cascading. Down we go. Right, now here we didn't break anything technically, right, but here this is really significant. So you look at these two, go, is there a count here? Well, you can probably come up with something, but are you going to have a high degree of confidence in it? No, I wouldn't. How do you have any confidence in what this is here, right? We don't have any. There's no retracement. Where's your 3-4? Maybe you can dig the 1-2 out here, but you don't have a lot to work with. So I'm much more inclined to say, well, when we get confirmation here that this is a hard low, which right now certainly looks like it could be, I'm more inclined to just go, well, it's an A. So if we come up here and we retrace and we get an internal retracement, so this line here is right at the golden zone. If we got something like that, well, then the whole thing just would start to make more sense. Okay, so I got an A, a deep B here. We go to the golden zone. Down we come to a target. We're at the 786. Well, that from an Elliott perspective, that's perfectly reasonable. Right, sure, we'd prefer to catch it at the golden zone, but we're certainly not disqualifying. We're still internal here. So all of that said, the last thing that I think is not insignificant. If we look here from our low, I see here I'm on Coinbase, which is essentially 3150 to 13, almost 14,000. Well, we certainly have the range here that would warrant a look at this in log scale. So let's pop it into log scale. Lo and behold, what do we see? Interesting. All right, so we're just a couple of ticks through the 50 here. So now you kind of lean into this and think, well, hey, wait a minute, could we be done here? I still would be very suspect of that because, you know, how convenient that popping it into log and I get something that here as a bull that makes me feel good. I get a little dopamine pop here and I go, oh, okay, well maybe this isn't as awful as first thought. Maybe. And then you kind of look here and go, okay, well, let's just think about this. All right, so here, all of this, and we pull it up. You know, I like to do this, just think about, okay, so if you were one of the traders here, right, that for whatever reason, you maybe it's technical or you're just a bear, and you caught that drop, did you take profit there? Right? Did everybody who shorted this take profit there? Well, right? So if you think of it, whether we call it fear and greed or pain and pleasure, right? So this is, as we're down here, this is all pleasure, right? Now, as we start coming back here, it starts to get to be nervous. Well, here we're right back to where they entered the market, right? We know there was a lot of trade activity here. Well, now all of a sudden, the second we get a tick beyond this, now that pleasure turns to pain. Now it's pain, it's pain, it's pain, it's pain. Well, wait a minute, we're coming all the way back pleasure. Oh, God, I can get out. Thank you, God. Thank you, trading gods. Thanks for, I swear to God, I'll never do that again. Right? I've been there. I have been down on my knees praying to the market gods. It never works. Rarely. When you need it, that's when the market won't give it to you. But my point being, so anyone who took that full ride, whether you scratched out here and then you said, well, okay, screw it. All right, if it's going long, now we're long. So it's the exact same phenomenon here. All right, so pleasure. Oh, shit. Oh, at least back to break even. At least I didn't lose any money. Right? You sort of follow that, and then you look here and go, okay, so then you can kind of make sense of like, well, why do we stop here? All right, remember, there's always somebody on the other side of a trade. Well, you know, it's not just, there's always traders on the other side, right? So you have to think, if you were long here and we've just come back to break even, are you still long? Hard to know, right? So those people. So look here, you can see it here. If this is the break and then this is the retest, right? We're retesting these people here. Or if you were considering the long, you're not so sure, and now we retest it and then we start to go. Well, if you didn't do it here, well, this was also a perfect, as I recall. Right, so we had a golden zone here, which should surprise no one, absolutely no one. So up we go, golden zone, and then we rip. So here, if you didn't say, oh, okay, time to get on the other side, well, here was your opportunity, right? Perfect golden zone, and we ripped through third target, right? So if you were long here, what happened here? Did you stay long, right? It's, we're kind of trying to guesstimate what the broader public did. If you were long here and you came and you stayed with it, right? And you said, I'll just get my stop and break even, right? If you're not, trying to trade every 30-minute swing here, well, you're probably stopped out right here. And what happens? Right, so look at these traders here. Right, look what happens. If they had their stop at break even, they get stopped out. Then you look at that and you go, look at that little wick that goes through this golden zone here. Look what they do here. Pop the stops and then straight up. I promise you that happened to more than a few people, right? Because you can understand why, right? Oh, I bought the golden zone. Oh, I'm just staying long because I know we're going to 100,000 of Bitcoin, so I'm just going to give it as much room as I possibly can, but I don't want to lose money, so I put my stop at break even. Stopped, rip. Well, so now the people that said, oh shit, maybe I can get long again here. Now what's happened, right? Now they're out, right? So everybody's just having a hard time with where's the right side to be on. So then you kind of got to look at this and go, well, if this is kind of the decision point for bulls and bears, well, we're smack dab, damn near. Certainly in log scale, we're sitting halfway between it. It's perfectly valid from an Elliott perspective. So then we start to see, well, can we build more on this? Is this potentially our low? I'm very suspect of this low because the Elliott count doesn't support it. But how are we going to know? Well, we're not going to know until we see what happens on the retrace. right? Well, one, how far are we going to go? How far are we going to go on this retrace? And then what do we hold here? So now you can kind of look at this. Now we go to log scale and you go, oh, okay, golden zone, golden zone. What else is there? All right, so I noticed this. So we've got these targets down here. We looked at this, a few weeks ago, that there was a fib channel on here that was kind of interesting. So I put this on here. So let me take this off. This kind of gets interesting. All right, so all I've got here now is I've got the 100%, the white lines, and I'm connecting the dominant pivots here. So the first 4 pivots that we get through this channel are what are defining this channel. So I've got golden zone 786 down here. So I think you follow me here. All I'm doing is just taking a measured move here and just putting it into a channel, right? Same values. So as we come down here, here's my golden zone, golden zone, golden zone, golden zone in the channel. Interesting. Now, where are we right now? Right back to the 100%. Now, can we get through? Well, of course, right? So here, wouldn't this be interesting if we went golden zone and then here, this is the 23.6 outside of the 100. Here's my negative 23.6 in a channel. And then here would be just straight golden zone. So maybe we do the 50. Here's the Vegas wave sitting right here. We got a couple of technical components that kind of tee that whole thing up. Right? So now we'd be down here and we'd be hitting golden zone log scale. The Elliott count, what as I just suggested, would certainly clarify, right? We could lean more into despite the very unusual expanded B waves of these two flats. It's kind of unusual, but then the whole thing would start to make more sense, and you could kind of wrap your head around, okay, I can understand what happened here. So as we come down to this zone, well, first, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see what kind of reaction we get here. Are we coming up here? Now, right, nothing says that it must turn here. Shit, we could be here by Monday. Easily. There's just no telling. But right now, as you look at this, just trying to think through, okay, where are traders, like where do we switch from pleasure to pain? From anyone who bought this, right now, this level is going to be absolutely critical. So perhaps you're someone who new to check-in log, right? So we have a lot of our sense, a lot of people. We had a lot of our members are long off of this, and I'll show you why. Right? It's not necessarily because they they spotted this in log scale, but just off of the Elliott count that's there. When we go down to the hourly, we'll take a look at that. But this is kind of interesting, right? So this could very much be teeing us up here. It would complete the entire thing. And then look, we'd have this confluence down here of golden zones on the channel. And again, look how consistently that's been tagged. Again, doesn't mean it must go down there, but it certainly is a path that I would have somewhere as an alternate. So let me take that off here, and we'll hide this just because it's too hard to see with that on there. Okay, so let me take that off. All right, let's go down and look at this pivot here, because this, as to how we head towards this, now that we're starting to move up towards this, so this would, here on Coinbase, we're talking 8,800. So you've seen a lot of talk about 8,000, 8,200. That's likely, we're just talking about the next 50. So you see that across the crypto sphere. This is going to be an important level here, which is, what have I got right here? 8350 would be the 50 from this. Assuming I've got that dialed in here. Let me tighten that up. 8,300. Important here. So we're going to come back into all of this, right? Market acceptance here. All right, take that off. I know that's annoying. So we got all of this right here that we're going to have to come right back into this, right? So if you shorted it, this was, I guarantee people got screwed here. Well, I shouldn't say that. People got caught unaware here, right? So this looks like it's going, we've had a little breakdown, down we go, and then quick reversal here. So that's very hard for anyone to, don't know. That's hard. There's no way to know that's coming. But once it comes, so the question is, where's it going, right? So we come back to, right? Let's see, from this one, yeah. So here we come, golden zone. Interesting. All right, so let's go down to that lower timetable. I think this is this you got to pay it to. You got to have this somewhere, right? So this is a very reasonable route for this to go, right? Which would be putting us down here. Now we're in the 5,800 to 50. Let's call it 58 to 53. There's about a $500 window down there, which is a target that we have to consider. Now, if we go down and look at this movement here, because the way this moves here, as assuming we're going to get up here and challenge that golden zone, we don't know that it is, but if it's going to get there, well, how's it going to get there? So for that, we got to go down to the smaller time frame. All right, so let me get rid of this and let's go down. We'll go down to the hourly. Hit hourly, yeah. Okay, now here, because we've compressed the range here, we don't need to stay in log scale. All right, so let me get this tightened up here. So we can come out of log scale. You'll see it won't make much of a difference, but yeah, let's see. Let's do that. Let's just hide that one. Come here. Yep, okay. All right, so coming from this side down. So so you're looking at this pivot going, God, what's there? Is there a count there? Oh, you know, so you kind of work backwards and you go, well, if this is 5 and this is 4 and this is 3 and we're working our way back, is that 2, 1? So you're kind of thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, if being forced to label it, you're kind of inclined to want to do it this way. It's not gorgeous, no question about it. So what do we have here? Is this the A, B, B, C is what we had been considering when we were, whoops, I'll do that this way. I want to go A, B, C here, put you on a different level. So we'd go A, B, C. So if this is A of a larger degree, sorry, I guess I got to do it this way. A, B, could we come down here to the C? That was the thinking that, you know, could this be the low? It could, except the symmetry is, you know, it's just awful. Right? It's relative to the first A and the length of the C relative to the A. Is it possible? Of course. But it's not particularly good symmetry. So it would make you suspect of that as a hard low, as our ultimate low. So let me just pull this off here and say, well, what else do we have here? Well, we do have this, right? So at the lower degree, so we come here, perfect golden zone. So here you see that we stutter at first target. We goes all the way. So we just blowing through targets. This was so weak, we just go down here. So you go, well, why? Why does it go there? It's just it takes a little time to find these, right? But there's almost always a reason. Put this. Oh, shit. Oh, pardon me. Wrong pivot. If I get right on it. Am I on that? Get you right on it. So I get one golden zone right here. Take note of this, guys. What do we get right here? Second golden zone. Here, I guess I got to take. So I know that's a lot of lines. Let me just isolate them. So we get one golden zone right here where we start this pitchfork. Then we get a second golden zone. Perfect golden zone. So what do we have here? We have a perfect back-to-back golden zones. Golden corner pocket all the way down. Tags it there. Just remarkable. Right? Took me a minute to find it. Right, so we got that one, we got that one, we got a perfect tag in the median line here after the golden zone, right? So you look at, you say, I know, it's so, you're thinking here like, oh, it didn't make it. It did, because you're expecting it's going to get it here. Oh man, well this is too far gone. We're outside. Oh, well that's actually where it hits it. First time, bounce, and then this is to the tick. Just remarkable, right? As always, there are no random pivots of significance. They just aren't there. I guarantee that's technical too. Right, 50 to the tick. Right, this was golden zone, 50 to the tick. All of these little ones in here, all be exactly the same. Right, it's the same thing every day, every market, every time frame. I don't know how many times I've said that. This is how the market moves. All right, so let's get that off of here. All right, so it's unbelievable. All right, so we've got this in play. So we've got a candidate here for a pivot of some significance here. So now we look here and go, well, if this ends up being the pivot, then we're back here living with this kind of shitty ABC, which that would surprise me. I'd be pleasantly surprised, but that would surprise the hell out of me if that's our hard low, right? But boy, would I be pleasantly surprised. All right, so let's look at this. Well, coming off of this low, well, what does that look like? right? Do I even need to draw it up? Considering what I just walked you through? Perfect. Let's go blow it up. Okay, what do we have here? Guys, I mean, I can show you these just thousands of times, right? This is how the market moves. You have to know where these are. So what do we get on the bottom end? After hitting just a to the tick golden zone of about, what was it, 3,000? A couple of G's. What do we get down here? So we got a golden zone. I got 3 pivots. What do you think I'm going to find there? I mean, right? Do we really need more evidence of this? This is how the market moves. There it is. So this back to back, I probably find 5 more in there. So there's another perfect golden corner, right? Just textbook. I can't Photoshop these guys. There it is, right there. Ticks it. That's where we get our react. Well, so one, we've got golden zone to target. As it gets through, as it hits the target, a couple of wicks to get through, so everybody gets filled. Now we don't collapse from that. We just roll over here. So we look at that and go, hey, do we have an Elliott count here? Well, here I'm going to pull some of this off here just because we dig into it. Well, it's it'd probably be different exchange to exchange, but here on Coinbase, if I get right in on that, we've got a very, you can barely see it, right? It's a break. So we don't have an impulse of a 1-2, right? That breaks enough. So what does that leave for us? Well, could we have a diagonal? Well, of course, one possibility is we've just got an ABC. But there's a potential motive getting started here, just potential. We'd have to trade this as an ABC, 4, 5. So we'd have to be working this. So you'd have to go A, B, C, some sort of A, B, C to get you to a 2 here, because now you're stuck with the diagonal. I mean, shit, right? It's a very small break. If you're not an Elliott purist, maybe, but that's one I wouldn't compromise on. So you got to be thinking diagonal. So from the swing high to the swing low here, if that's going to play as a 1-2 plus here, we don't quite get to 100. So now this looks much more like we got to go A, B, C into the third. It would not be surprising, right? This is in a diagonal, the 1, 2, 7, 1, 3, 8, 2. Just like this in an impulse, this very common for the third relative to the 1, 2 in a diagonal. Right? If we're not just going to keep charging up and get the 1, 6, 1, 8, this is the next one to look for. And then I'd be looking for now remember, if this is going to trade as a diagonal, we have to overlap the 1. So where we look for, now I don't have the pivot up here, but we look for the 4 in relation to the start of the 1 in a diagonal, and ideally we'd tee it up right around 50. Right? So this is anywhere in this range. Be looking down here. Textbook would be here. This is a little deeper than you want because now we're coming down to challenge the 4. So ideally you'd be in this range, but we got to overlap. So it could be just a couple of ticks, but just enough, right? If this is going to play as the 3, because likely, right, we can't work the 3 here. So to give it a little bit more structure, so this is actually shallow, but it's technical. So if we go swing high to swing low, what did we just do here, right? So we come to the 38, Vegas wave right into it, and that's 23.6 to the tick. Unusual that would pop off of the 38, but there it is, right? So I'm not ready to lock and load on that as the 3 and just like, we'll keep that in pencil, right? That could easily keep going here. Nothing says we have to stop, but you got to look there and say, well, what are we running into there? Is there some resistance? Well, we know we've got the bigger resistance from above, but here nothing really stands out with the exception of the potential wave 2 up here. That's the closest pivot here, and look what we just did here. Right, so any of these are all just, they look like they're all part of the 3. This is the last significant retracement we've got. So are we just tagging the algo target here? That's why we get through the 50, or is this just a little resistance up here, from this secondary swing high to low, and we've just bumped into the 50? So that you can understand, well, why did we bump our heads there? Doesn't mean we have to stop there, but if we're going to come down and finish this, look what that would do. Right now we're back to the golden zone, which you sure as hell want to pay attention to here. So if that were to complete this way, we don't want to put the B here, right? It's a motive wave. We're looking for a corrective structure. So I think the B potentially, if this is going to be realized, heavy emphasis on if this is going to, if we're going to get a motive here, so we can take this off, I'd be anticipating, right, until proven otherwise, that we're doing something like this. Right, so A, B, and we'd be looking for an impulse here. Well, pardon me, it wouldn't have to be an impulse. We'd be looking for a motive here. So if we got A, B, C, so, right, you just keep the thing going. Where's the next golden zone? Something along those lines. And we just do this exact same thing again. Right, golden zone. Where are we going? Are we going to do it here? We're going to do it here. We're somewhere along here, maybe here, right? Maybe we get a double top. Put it into the B, or it wouldn't be crazy at all. Right to the golden zone, we tag the median line off that low. Now I'm way ahead of myself here, but just kind of laying out like, okay, well, if this is the A, I need a three-wave structure here to get some confidence in the Elliott count before I would be anticipating that we're going down at the very least to challenge this low. Nothing says we have to break that. Remember, that's the 50 on the log scale, but we had the target down here. Right, and we had now if we take it back out to the larger degree, then we know we had those targets down in the 5,800 to 53. Well, here's 5882, right? And I'm doing that without having these pivots. I'm just using the closest golden zone. But you can see how that might be a path here. So what to do? Well, if you were long off of any of this and you caught some of this, I think the trading here. I think, so as I talked last week here, I think you want to have trading, percentage of your Bitcoin holdings is sort of tradable, and then your longer term holding bank, for lack of a better way to describe it, where it's more about where it's going to be next year, 3 years, 5 years, and less about where it's going to be on Monday. This down here at an hourly, this is very active trading. You don't need to be down here at this level unless you want to be down here at this level. I rarely in Bitcoin am I down trading off of this level, but it's certainly technical. It's certainly doable, and we have lots of members and senseis that love to trade down here at this level. I just don't, right? So that's not the point about what I do. I'm just showing you that you can certainly apply our methodology here and be very in sync with how the market's moving technically. How about we phrase it that way? So in terms of the next trade, where's the next trade? Well, we need a pivot here, and it's a bit of a, well, certainly, right? There's no guarantees. If we get a retracement here, you're playing for the 4 to the 5 of a motive wave off of this pivot down here. That's really, I wouldn't be buying here with my Bitcoin I'm holding money, right? My Bitcoin bank, unless you're laddering in, which that's reasonable. This would be my trading Bitcoin. All right, so if I'm going to trade this, I'm trying to get long around 7,200 and ride it up to 8,200. So I got $1,000 swing I'm trying to play there. So maybe some light leverage. That could be a nice little weekend hit right there, but I wouldn't be just staying long, assuming that we're just now the lows in and off we go. Right? There's just too many variables, and there's way too much resistance above, and then we come all the way back to where we started. At least in arithmetic, we've got to break it at 65. So the bulls are going to have to prove themselves here. We're going to have to break all of this resistance on the way back up. All these 65s here. This is a secondary pivot, right? The big one we got to break is the dominant. That's the big one, which is up here at 9,000. We got to get through that, and really we got to get through it and hold on a retest before you really start getting, okay, game on. Now we're off. I don't think and then you'd be back leaning into this low, and again, per the Elliott count, right? An Elliott count is not an inevitability, but the count is where we started. How about we just say this right here? This is a question mark. Question mark. Could be the low. I'd be pleasantly surprised if it were, but we can't really lean into that until we get some confirmation here. And really, even if we do a motive here, that doesn't confirm us, because it could easily be just the A wave of the correction, right? So we come all the way back out to the hourly and start thinking about some of that in terms of what's likely here relative to the larger degree count. So now you start looking at all of that and you go, well, okay, that putting us in right here, that was the double top. If we go a little bit higher, right? We get up to the 50, and then again, we're back to looking at some of these lower targets down here as we had just drawn up. Something down here in this range, we're approaching, we get under 6,000. Man, that's where your long-term bank really, I think your Bitcoin holding bank, if we'll just use that language, would really be a place to consider adding to your allocation there, if you have the opportunity. And you don't need to sit down here with a limit order. I mean, you can, right? Depending on what kind of tolerance you have for this, and whether you're just, if this is holding, you want to stop at some point, want some reasonable point. But I certainly, you could give that plenty of room. So if something down here, some little pop off of it, a retrace, then I think you could be a bit more aggressive. But until then, you've got to be prepared for the probability that we're just unresolved here. And that despite all of the technical trading here, and despite that, yeah, I can get the 50 here in log scale, I wouldn't bet heavily on that just yet, right? So, I mean, we're talking, again, think about Bitcoin next year, at the end of 2020. What do you think it's going to be? All right, we got the halving coming in March. I mean, there's a lot of potential all there, but right, there's potential for this entire year. Right, you constantly read about it. Well, all the back end, all the infrastructure continues to move forward here, where we've got halving coming in March. There's a lot of bullish background. You've got the infrastructure going in place so that institutions can now trade, with no ETF, but there's mixed views as to how much benefit that'll bring to the market. You certainly have the opportunity now for institutions to get in here. You can see it creeping in. It's creeping, right? Governments are fighting it. Governments are nervous. They don't, that's what caused this, right? The Chinese, right? They're nervous about it. Governments are going to continue to be nervous about it. Good. All right, guys, there's plenty of things to chew on. I went kind of long there, but there's a lot of moving parts here. All right, we'll wrap it there. I think that's it for today. Okay, I'll be back with one more.